بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد الصادق الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, tonight we are gathered once again to study the text Matharatul Qulub, the purification of hearts of Imam Muhammad Mawlud, rahmatullahi alayh. And today, inshallah, we're going to be studying the disease called inappropriate anger. Now, in the original Arabic, the name of this disease is ghadab. And ghadab on its own can be translated as anger. However, we don't want to refer to anger on its own as a disease of the heart, because anger is also a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is given to human beings as a means for ensuring their survival in this world. And so ghadab, anger on its own, is not intrinsically blameworthy, as we'll discuss. So when we look at ghadab as a disease of the heart, we have to refer to it as inappropriate anger and not just anger itself. Here in the description, Imam Muhammad Mawlud says about anger or inappropriate anger, وَبَحْرُهَا الزَّاخِرُ أَعْنِ الْغَضَبَ إِن تَأْتِ شَطَّهُ تَرَى الْعَجَائِبَ أَمْوَاجُهُ طَامِيَةٌ كَذَا اللُّجَجْ أَلَا فَعِنْهُ حَدِّثًا وَلَا حَرَجْ. As for the swelling ocean of all of these diseases, I mean anger, if you come to its shore, you'll see astonishing things. Its waves and everything else about it are overflowing. So say of it what you will without constraint. We see here that Imam Muhammad Mawlud describes anger as a bahr zakhir, kind of an overflowing, swelling ocean, because it is a swelling mass of emotion that leads to a lot of damage. He says you'll see ajaib, you'll see astonishing things. Astonishing things happen when people exercise their anger in inappropriate ways. They will do and say things that alter their life irrevocably, doing and saying things that change the course of their life, leading them to much regret. So he says its waves and everything about it are overflowing. It's this swelling mass of emotion that's very difficult to control once it's let out. Say about it what you will without constraint. Now our starting point for this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which one of the companions came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, O Messenger of Allah, give me counsel. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تغضب, do not become angry. And it's as if that companion was looking for something more, maybe more profound or deep. That seemed a very simple counsel. So he asked again to give him counsel, to which the Prophet ﷺ said twice, and again a third time, لا تغضب, لا تغضب, do not become angry. Do not become angry. When we look at this hadith and the various commentaries that have been written on it, we see that the scholars generally interpret this hadith in a couple of different ways. They'll say that when the Prophet ﷺ is saying, do not become angry, he's instructing the companion and all of us to take the steps to prevent us from becoming angry, meaning to change our character, to refine our behavior so that we become more gentle, more calm, more easygoing, and more forgiving. And once you have these qualities developed within you, they'll become a part of your nature and you'll be less prone to get angry. This is one interpretation. The other interpretation is that when the Prophet ﷺ says to this companion, do not become angry, he's not telling him that he cannot have the emotion of anger. What he's telling him is that you cannot act upon anger in a way that is contrary to the guidance of the Sharia, the sacred law of Islam. When you're angry, you have to take steps to control that anger and transmute it in such a way that if it manifests, it is only used in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this goes back to our understanding of anger as an emotion and whether or not it's blameworthy intrinsically. So when Imam Muhammad Maulud describes ghadab as a disease of the heart, he is not saying that ghadab, anger, is universally blameworthy in all situations. That is because there are blameworthy forms of anger and praiseworthy forms of anger. Blameworthy anger is the anger that is for the sake of the nafs, the ego, the lower self, and that is used in a way that is forbidden, where a person is violating the standards of the Sharia, doing things that are haram out of anger. This is the petty anger of the nafs and the raging anger of lashing out and doing things that are haram. This can manifest in subtle ways. The person who, as we say, they fly off the handle. Little things set them off. They don't like the way the potato salad was made. They don't like the way the curtains look. And so they fly off the handle. They lose their temper. And people begin to walk on eggshells around them. They become very sensitive to this person's fluctuating emotions and outbursts of anger. This is an anger based on the nafs, the ego, the unbridled ego. Then you have the anger that is raging because of perceived faults, where a person then does things that are haram. Imam al-Ghazali notes that many haram things result from inappropriate anger. It could be from the hand, the tongue, or the heart, as we'll see. Now, besides this blameworthy anger, there's also praiseworthy anger, or we call it legitimate anger, and that is the anger where one is justified, where one should be feeling angry. So we're going to look at this from a couple of different angles. There's an appropriate cause for anger, but an inappropriate expression of anger. There's an appropriate cause for anger and an appropriate expression of anger. And then you have an inappropriate cause for anger and an inappropriate expression of it. A person may have a legitimate reason to be angry, yet they express that anger in a way that is blameworthy. A person may be legitimately angry for legitimate reasons, and they express it in a way that is also legitimate. So a person can be angry for the right reasons, but they can express it in a way that is destructive and a way that is against the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-wise. He is al-Hakim. He does not make mistakes. And He created within human beings qualities that are essential to their survival. One of these qualities is anger, what the ulama of ethics call al-quwwatul ghadabiyya, the irascible aspect of the soul. That aspect of the soul that arises and defends against transgressions to defend itself and what it values to ensure its survival. This is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have this quality so that we can rise to the occasion and respond to threats so that we ensure our survival. This is a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, those qualities can get out of hand. They can be used in inappropriate ways, and that's what we're talking about today. So just as Allah Ta'ala has given us the quality of anger as a means of surviving and thriving in this world, He has also given us the intellect and the ability to use that anger in the appropriate context and the ability to control the anger and transmute it so that it's not misdirected and used in an unjust way. So anger may arise involuntarily because it's a part of our instinct, but the way we use it and how we control it is conscious. It's something that is voluntary, which means that there's moral responsibility in how we use our anger. A person may say, I get naturally angry, or I have a temper. I'm naturally hot-tempered. Well, that's fine. But the involuntary action is not blameworthy. What is blameworthy is the acting upon that. If the person has a temper and they get control of their temper and use that in a way that is pleasing to Allah Ta'ala and control it when it's arising, then there's no blame upon them for that. So Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullahi alayhi, in his Ihya Ulumuddin, he has a very enlightening discussion about anger, blameworthy anger. He talks about healthy anger and unhealthy anger. He says that when it comes to anger, there are three types of people. There's the person who is lacking in anger. There's the person who is given to excess anger. And then there's the person who is on the fitrah, the natural balanced way. He says that the ones who are lacking in anger are called cowards. They're spineless people. They're called cowards. And Imam al-Shafi'i, rahmatullahi alayhi, one of the great imams, he has a famous saying that Imam al-Ghazali quotes, "Man istughdiba wa lam yaghdab fahuwa himar." Whoever is incited to anger, he's prodded to anger, yet he does not become angry, then he is a donkey. So there is a natural anger that people should have. And if they don't have it, then they're cowardly. And on the other hand, you have those who are given to excess anger. The excess anger is the person who gets angry very quickly and they act on it in inappropriate and unlawful ways, which is what we're talking about today. But I think it's important to always juxtapose it with those who have a lack of anger, because in our society, we have lots of rules and regulations and procedures and safety helmets and yellow vest and insurance policies. We have all these checks and balances and things. So people tend to suppress that primal anger and they lash out in passive aggressive ways. They're still angry, but they're expressing it in more subtle ways than yelling or hitting someone. So we have to talk about both of these because they're both imbalanced people. Imam al-Ghazali says that the person who is lacking in that primal anger will become what we call essentially a doormat, whom other people will walk over. They will sin because that person doesn't have the appropriate response of anger that they should be having. They don't speak out when they have the ability, when they should be. And Imam al-Ghazali makes a really important point here when he talks about those who lack anger. He says, if a person lacks primal anger, they're not going to be able to discipline their souls and do the work of spiritual purification. Everything that we've been talking about this Ramadan, from the beginning of this class until today, when we look at the remedies, it all requires a certain level of anger internally, where we get angry at ourselves for our shortcomings and we rise and discipline ourselves and say, enough is enough. I recognize this bad quality and that bad quality in me. I don't want to have those qualities. I'm not satisfied with myself in having those qualities. Therefore, I'm going to do the work that I have to do to get rid of them. That requires a certain level of primal anger. And Imam al-Ghazali says that if you are lacking in that primal anger, you won't have enough internal resources to discipline your soul and struggle against those lower qualities. You'll be too lackadaisical. You have to get to the point where you're saying to yourself, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired and I'm not going to take it anymore. But focusing that inwardly. I'm sick and tired of having these diseases that I recognize in my soul. And I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to ask Allah Ta'ala for help. I'm going to gird my loins. I'm going to use that primal anger with myself against these shortcomings and ask Allah for support and do the mujahada, the actual striving to get rid of these qualities. So that's the praiseworthy anger. So praiseworthy anger is the anger that is directed by the aql and the deen, by the religion and by the intellect. When a person has anger and it is used according to the dictates of the sharia and the intellect, this is a positive, praiseworthy form of anger used for the purpose for which Allah Ta'ala had created it. So Imam al-Ghazali also notes that when a person is on the other extreme, where they have an anger problem and it comes out in blameworthy ways, he says that it also leads them to other sins. Other sins manifest because of this disease of blameworthy anger that's uncontrolled. It could be from the hand. A person lashes out by striking people or hitting them or throwing something across the room, whatever it may be. It could also be from the tongue, where they lash out against people and insult them and say really mean, damaging things. Things that are very, very hurtful to the other person that they can't just take back. They may backbite those people. They may spread rumors about those people. And that inappropriate anger can also lead to blameworthy states of the heart, such as envy, such as rancor, inappropriate hatred, wishing harm for that person they're angry with, being happy when some misfortune befalls them, and being upset when something good comes their way. These are all internal diseases that manifest when anger is not controlled and when it is expressed in an inappropriate way. Imam al-Ghazali also notes that the causes that give rise to anger can be diseases in their own right. So he looks at what are some of the reasons why people would get angry and express that anger in an inappropriate way. And he notes that many of those reasons, those causes that will give rise to the anger, are themselves diseases. So if you wish to get control of inappropriate anger, you have to look at some of the causes. What is it that's getting you angry? Chances are the causes getting you angry are themselves blameworthy. So he gives the example of ujub that we talked about a couple of days ago, conceitedness and vanity. A person may be so conceited they look down on other people, and if that person says something to them or treats them as an equal and they see them as superior, they will get angry. They say to themselves, or they feel that they're better than other people. So if other people treat them like a peer and don't accord them the level of dignity and respect they think they deserve, they get angry with those people. Why are they angry? Those people didn't do anything that's really blameworthy, but they feel it's a personal slight because they see themselves as great and glorious. So in order to treat that anger, you have to get to the root of it and look at the vanity that gives rise to it. Also, fault finding. Some people are nitpicking. They like to find faults with everything. That's a disease of the heart. And that fault finding can give rise to anger. Other examples would include trickery or covetousness, the tama' that we've been speaking about. When a person can't get what they're craving after of the world, they may get angry because they're in competition with someone else to get that. And so anger emerges because of the covetousness. Also, craving after worldly status. When there's a competition and people are vying for status and position, if they feel that another person is going to have more status than them, they get angry. So that anger comes out in an inappropriate way, but the cause of it is from another disease. So you have to address those diseases if you're going to get control of inappropriate anger, looking at those causes. He also notes that one of the reasons why some people express blameworthy anger is because blameworthy anger has been turned from a vice into a virtue because of society and culture. He was speaking about his culture during his time, and you see a lot of that today as well, where anger as a vice is reconstituted and turned into a virtue by changing its name. It's no longer blameworthy anger from an ego that cannot control itself. Rather, it's called bravery, or it's called honor. We change the names of these vices into virtues to give ourselves a cover and justification for lashing out on people. Oh, I'm not angry. I'm just defending my honor. I'm not angry in a blameworthy way. I am just keeping it real. I'm brave. I'm not a coward. I don't allow people to push me around. So there's always this careful balance. Again, the careful balance in the dichotomy between being a spineless coward on the one hand and being a hothead on the other. The solution to inappropriate anger is not to become a doormat. And the solution to, or the way of changing one's character to not be a doormat isn't found in being a hothead. It's the prophetic balance of using the anger for the proper purpose according to the dictates of the Sharia and the intellect. So, how do we control our anger? Imam Muhammad Mawlud, he says, له دواءان دواء يرفع فلا يجي والثاني إن جاء يدفع فاذكر لتزدان بحل الرافع كثرة مدح الحلم والتواضع في الشرع والشعر ونثر الحكماء ووصف الأنبياء طرا بهما. To treat anger, how do you control it? He says it has two treatments. One of them removes it altogether without trace. The other suppresses it should it manifest itself. We should note here that when he's saying that one of them removes it altogether, he means removes the blameworthy manifestations of anger. He's not saying that this treatment removes anger entirely from the human being. That's not something that we seek after. We don't seek to eradicate anger entirely. It has its purpose. He says, to be adorned with the ornament of its cure, remember the extensive praise lavished upon forbearance and humility in sacred law, as well as in poetry and prose of the wise. Indeed, remember that all of the prophets have been depicted as having both qualities. So there are theoretical treatments for inappropriate anger, and there are practical treatments for controlling our anger so that it doesn't become inappropriate. Number one, we think about the rewards of those who control their anger, mentioned in the Quran, the rewards for those who rein in the lower impulses of their ego. We also contemplate the punishment of Allah Ta'ala and understand that His punishment is greater than any anger we could use when lashing out on someone. His punishment is greater than any punishment we could dish out to anyone out of anger. He mentions here that one of them, it removes it altogether without a trace. The other suppresses it should it manifest itself. To be adorned with the ornament of its cure, he says, remember the extensive praise lavished upon forbearance and humility mentioned in the Sharia, in the Quran and the Sunnah, as well as in poetry and prose of the wise. To read the verses of Quran that speak about those who suppress their rage. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who restrain their rage and pardon people. So he mentions forbearance and humility, hilm and tawadu'. Hilm is that forbearance, and this is greater than just controlling anger, because forbearance is pardoning people, letting go, not insisting on lashing out on people because you feel slighted. So hilm is a great virtue, and the Prophet ﷺ taught us that hilm is not something that just comes like that. It requires some development. He says in the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ وَإِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ. Knowledge is only acquired through learning, and hilm, forbearance, is only acquired through cultivating it and developing it. So we think about these things. Imam Muhammad Mawlud says, وَدَفْعُهُ يَحْصُلُ بِاسْتِشْعَارِ أَنْ لَيْسَ فَاعِلٌ سِوَى الْقَهَارِ وبالتوضي بماء بارد وبالسكوت واتكاء قاعد وبقعود من قيام يندري وبالتعوذ كما في الخبر. Now the practical treatments for anger, he says, repel anger by perceiving it at its onset, perceiving at its onset that there is no one doing anything in reality except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And la fa'il siwa al-qahari. There's no doer, ultimately speaking, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also by performing wudu with cold water, keeping silent, lying down if one is sitting, and sitting if one is standing. It will pass by doing these things, and also by seeking refuge in Allah, as was mentioned in the tradition. So here are some other treatments. These are more practical treatments. Think about reality. When you get angry and you want to lash out on someone, look at things through the prism of haqiqah, of ultimate reality. Who is the real doer? Who is really in control? We see this theme coming again and again in the text when we look at the treatments for many of these diseases, going back to the real recognition, not just on the intellectual domain, but in the depths of our soul, a recognition of who is the real doer, who is really in control. Who is in control? What does it mean when we say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah? Someone gets us angry, we have to recognize who is the doer. Each person has moral responsibility. Each person is acquiring their actions, but Allah Ta'ala is the creator of everything that is unfolding around us. If we have that fana fil af'al, as they call it, in the nomenclature of the spiritual masters, this annihilation in the actions where we see that everything is the act of God, that will help us put things in proper perspective and keep us from lashing out and getting angry in an inappropriate and unlawful way. The second advice he gives is to make wudu with cold water. To make wudu with cold water because shaitan spurs us on to get angry. Anger causes us to get heated, and cold water has a physiological effect in cooling the body, and that cools our emotions as well. We make wudu with cold water when we get angry. We make wudu with cold water if we are feeling the heat of passion or anger or any of these qualities that give rise to heat. He says also to remain silent. How much damage is done when we're saying things out of anger that we can't take back? He gives the advice to be silent. Because adding words when angry is adding fuel to a fire. And keeping silent is putting out that fire slowly. So we remain silent when we are angry. That is the best time to keep silent. Read your nafs, it's Miranda rights. You have a right to remain silent. And if you're going to say something that is displeasing to Allah Ta'ala, insulting that person, saying something very hurtful that's going to cause a problem for the long term, you not only have a right to remain silent, you have a duty to remain silent. You have a duty. A lot of the anger problems that we see and the disastrous effects it has in our life comes from words. The things that we say when we lash out of anger, like poisonous darts. So be silent. And then he says, lie down. If you're sitting down, lie down. Put yourself in a more humbling position where you're less likely to move. This will help quell the anger. He says if you're sitting, lie down if you're sitting, and sit down if you're standing. So if you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting down, lie down. Change your posture to have a physiological effect in calming that anger, because the anger is a physical response as well, not just an emotion. We see the effects on the body. And lastly, he says, seek refuge with ta'awudh. Say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, kama ja'a fil khabar, as it appears in the hadith report. That when you get angry, say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. These things are serious. We have to really take them to heart. Say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And if you're really angry, say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, go make wudu and go lie down and keep silent. And when the ulama say keep silent, they mean keep silent from those things that are displeasing to Allah Ta'ala. Keep silent and don't respond when you're angry. They don't mean you have to keep silent entirely. You can make dhikr. because you're saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and you can also say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And one of the great remedies for anger is to say Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali, or any formula of durood, of salat and wassalams upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. One of the best remedies for anger is to go take a long walk and send 1,000 salawat or 100 salawat after you've made a cold wudu. Get your mind off the situation, because the Prophet ﷺ's mention is calming to the soul. It's a balm, it's a balsam lil-ruh, and that will bring down the intensity of the anger. So, one of the important lessons we get from this chapter or this section in the poem is that if a person is struggling with inappropriate anger, either they're responding to something, is a legitimate reason to be angry, but their response is inappropriate, or the cause of anger is inappropriate, then the person needs to get to the bottom of that and find out where it's coming from. The anger is not in a vacuum. It could be a defense mechanism. It could be something based on a long-standing trauma. It could be based on their inability to deal with conflict, their behavior patterns that they've grown accustomed to through a combination of life experience and their own temperament. And often it's because of other diseases that are within the heart, of vanity, of vying for worldly status and power, of arrogance and pride. And if one discovers those vices within them and finds that they're the cause of anger rising, they can't just control the anger in the moment and think that by saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim and making wudu, then it's going to go away forever. It's going to keep coming back until you address the root causes. So the work of purification is looking at each of these diseases and how they manifest and what they may give rise to. And this is the life work, to suppress the symptom and look at the cause and remove the cause so that anger is no longer an issue and we get it back into balance, where we're not doormats and cowardly, nor are we hotheads flying off the handle and saying and doing things that are inappropriate and displeasing to Allah Ta'ala. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us people of that prophetic balance, people who have that primal anger used in a way that is appropriate and in accordance with the Sharia and the dictates of the intellect. Ameen. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.